by the White House not to testify, citing constitutional immunity, which they argue protects communications with the president, leading former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski to take the heat from Democrats over allegations documented in the special counsel report that President Trump asked him to go to then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to curtail the special counsel investigation.
Fox's Catherine Herridge. Lewandowski later telling Fox's The Story with Martha McCallum.
The president asked me to go have a conversation with Jeff Sessions, is basically what's in the Mueller report. I testified to the fact that I believe that to be accurate, and then I just never did it. And so they want to talk about what may have transpired had I spoken to Jeff Sessions. But it's all speculation because I never had the conversation.
President Trump tweeting his praise of Lewandowski's appearance before the committee after the hearing ended. Hurricane warning is posted for Bermuda. Hurricane Umberto is now a Tropical 3 hurricane. Winds clocked at 115 miles an hour. The core of that storm is expected to pass to the northwest of Bermuda by Wednesday night. They'll still feel the impact of hurricane-force winds. What was Tropical Storm Imelda now downgraded to a tropical depression after moving ashore Tuesday in southeast Texas, but it also has slowed down.
It's going to be moving slowly to the north across eastern Texas over the next couple of days, which could cause heavy rainfall and flash flooding.
That's meteorologist Andy Latto at the National Hurricane Center, who says some areas could get up to a foot of rain. A prominent Democrat donor in California has been charged with running a drug house where 2 men died of overdoses. Prosecutors say Edward Buck is a violent, dangerous sexual predator. America is listening to Fox News.
Is all your TV in one place, plus more. Watch thousands of hit shows, movies, and award-winning Hulu originals for only $5.99 per month. It's TV without the cable contract and the freedom of on-demand streaming. Get current network shows from ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, and binge-watch every season of your favorite cable shows. Premium Hulu viewing is brought to you by Proline Automotive and AB Sports, Guam's store for Nike. To advertise on Hulu, call Choice Digital at 989-0042.
In Israel's parliamentary elections Tuesday, 92% of the votes have now been counted. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu failing to win a majority in the Knesset. He's told supporters he'll call for the formation of an anti-Arab coalition government. A civil lawsuit's been filed against former NSA contractor Edward Snowden for violating his non-disclosure agreements and publishing a book entitled Permanent Record, which was released on Tuesday.
The filing approved by Attorney General Bill Barr alleges that Snowden violated his non-disclosure agreements by failing to submit his manuscript to the agencies for pre-publication review. That is a standard process for former employees and contractors of both agencies. The purpose of the suit is aimed at ensuring that no funds are transferred to Snowden or at his direction while the court is resolving the case.
Fox's John Decker at the White House. A new Oklahoma law could lead to hundreds of inmates having their prison sentences cut short.
The change goes back to a 2016 referendum in which Oklahomans voted to lower drug possession crimes to a misdemeanor and raise the minimum for felony property crimes. The new standards could mean hundreds of inmates could be eligible for the commutation process to shorten their sentences. The new law takes effect November 1st. The Oklahoma Pardon and Paroles Board is getting a list from corrections officials of who may be eligible for shortened sentences. They expect about 800 inmates to fall into that category. Those who are in for additional crimes likely won't see their time decrease. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
NBC Universal announcing a new streaming service. They'll call it Peacock in honor of the NBC logo. 2 of the biggest shows that will be available, The Office and Parks and Recreation, which also means those shows will be leaving Netflix, but not for a while. The new service will launch next April. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Chili's Guam invites you to our new location, now open on the second floor of Tumon Sands Plaza. For the past 10 years, we have made Guam our home and celebrated moments with our familia and friends. From birthdays to first dates, anniversaries, and everything else in between. We're keeping it going with our new location where you can hang out with family and friends over fajitas, burgers, ribs, and margaritas. Treat yourself to an elevated guest experience at Chili's like no place else. Now open on the second floor of Tumon Sands Plaza. Chili's, new location, same bold flavors.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your NFL fix every Friday on Sports with Blake. Get the latest updates as Blake and Mike break down the upcoming action. Get your game on with the boys on the hotline, 888-TALK, or sound off on Facebook Live at thepoint.gu. League members get a chance to win some awesome prizes that get you through the NFL season. The NFL Picks on The Ray Gibson Show is brought to you by Current Guam with special thanks to GTA. Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Good afternoon, and welcome to Tall Tales for is it Tuesday or is it Wednesday? Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday, September 18th, 2019. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back in 19 days. 19. Count them. Yeah. It's, yeah. Wow. It's getting short. 19 days, getting short here. Don't have anything for the... There's lots going on, but not anything in particular, just sort of the activity from before winding down on the assault on the Second Amendment. So we'll return to that as we get more news about the later well, what's coming up in the news about assault on gun ownership. We'll keep an eye out for that. I was just checking to see whether Bob sent me something last minute. Sometimes he does right around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and so it's good to check back in with my email account and see if he'd sent anything over. But no, so we'll go on to Zami Ikatni. Today we've got ourselves a contest. We have two local editorials, and both of them on subjects of great importance to us, and so happy to see some competition today. And we're gonna take a look at both of these. The PDN says emergency declaration should have been voiced, and the Guam Daily Post says Guam public schools need support to improve security. So let's start with the Guam Daily Post today. Guam public schools need support to improve security. By the time the riot at Tizan High School was placed under control around noon Tuesday, certain students were left bloodied. 2 students were transported to Guam Memorial Hospital, and 5 were taken into custody by the Guam Police Department. The riot, based on initial information authorities have gathered, started when one student was allegedly drunk with vodka. A student who told on the drunk student was allegedly attacked, and the fight snowballed from there. This isn't the first time drunk students have disrupted Guam public middle and high schools. There have been a number of other similar cases in which students' safety was in danger because of other students' aggressive behavior. The student resource officers at schools and the school aides, who often function as backup security, are simply outnumbered by the sheer volume of students and the vast layout of some of our larger public schools. And the Guam Federation of Teachers has noted a shortage of school aides at Guam schools to help monitor students. In the case of Teedson High, the fight happened hours after the school day started. The drunk student had been in school for hours before the fighting erupted. This brings to light the need for security in schools to change, particularly at the entrances. At one point, the Guam Department of Education sought financial support for security at schools to discourage would-be burglars or vandals who often acted at night or over the weekend. What about bringing that security in to assist during the school day to ensure students' safety? Some of our public schools have too many entry points where students and even strangers can just walk in. There isn't enough of a system in place to spot students and gauge if they reek of alcohol, carry weapons, or are behaving erratically before they enter the campus. Campuses should be limited to 1 or 2 gates where students can be better monitored as they enter, one student at a time. Unloading school busloads of students on campus and allowing student walkers and car riders to walk in with little, if any, cursory glance from a school aide or school resource officer is simply not enough. There has to be a way for the Guam Department of Education to improve its system for determining whether each student walking into campus isn't under the influence of alcohol or drugs and isn't a danger to other students. Many of our public school students attend school with the hope of getting as good an education as possible to improve their lives. The few who are disruptive should not be allowed to enter any school campus, period. It's GDOE's responsibility to keep problem students out, and it's the legislature's and the administration's job to provide GDOE with the funding and personnel to do so. No calls? Nobody want to jump in here and beat me to the punch? Or the punch line? 888-8255 is our telephone number here, and you can also cruise right on through and join us on Facebook Live and post your comment there. And while we're waiting for your call, I'll go ahead and wax poetic on this. I don't agree with the editorial bottom line here. I don't even agree with their logic. It is not more security staff. Yeah. Can you imagine taking somebody who's qualified to keep an eye on the building overnight to make sure that there's no vandals or burglars, and equating them with the person who would be needed to watch access points or to give students one by one a sniff test? It's not more security staff or making students file in one by one so they can be scanned. You know, you've gone through scanners before. Scanned. The Post editorial overlooks the response that does work: student vigilance and reporting. In this case, the student who reported was attacked. GDOE needs to encourage students to help maintain the learning environment provided to them. They did. So help them. Respond to students who are concerned and engaged citizens, and refer students committing public drunkenness and aggravated assault to the proper authorities. I can't believe that this passed for an editorial in this day and age. You see something's being done right, and you don't put a spotlight on it. And anyway, who says that the person who was drunk, the student who was drunk, got drunk before he came to school? Maybe he just had a little thing on, in his bag, and he kept sipping at it and sipping on it until he was there, and that was like 4th or 5th period. I mean, we've all been there. It's not hard to do. But if other students don't want to put up with that behavior, it's up to them to point out the students who are ruining their day, and and then back them up. That's what GDOE can be doing. That's what the people in the schools who are adults can do. And help those students who are responsible citizens to stand up. So what happens over in the other? Okay, so that's that. That's that. You think they're still in the running for the Blue Star? Real Joe. I see that face. Now, let's go over to PDN. And the editorial in today's PDN, page 16, the headline is, Emergency Declaration Should Have Been Voiced. And I have attached, if you're watching on Facebook Live, you'll see that I'm holding like a sheaf of cuttings, newspaper cuttings. And, you know, perhaps this is indicative of, you know, how long has this thing been going on? When Governor Lou Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio were running for office, a key component of their campaign platform was, quote, leadership based on honesty, transparency, inclusion, and fairness to provide our people with a government worthy of their trust, end quote. Yet when the governor declared a state of emergency Friday to assist the Department of Public Health and Social Services in preventing an outbreak of dengue fever, no announcement was made. Instead, the governor's office sent the legislature a notice of the emergency declaration on Monday, after spraying and other dengue prevention measures were underway. The document was posted on the legislative website. According to Governor's spokeswoman Crystal Paco, the decision was made to keep the declaration quiet because the executive order was, quote, just to move the money and get the resources and expedite. That's partly why we didn't report it that way, because it does sound an alarm, she said. But the decision to keep the information from the public, from the people, was neither transparent nor inclusive. And it did not fulfill the stated goal of avoiding panic. Instead, the lack of transparent action on the part of the government created an environment conducive to rumors. That leads to panic. That also leads to a mistrust of government. There is nothing panic-inducing about an announcement saying the governor has declared a state of emergency so we can quickly acquire the tools and resources we need to prevent a disease from spreading. It is more unsettling to wonder if government is taking action at all, or to wonder why government action is taking place behind the scenes. The administration was elected by the people to serve the people. Rather than worrying about our anxiety levels, our leaders can provide us with accurate information about how this situation is being managed. And yes, that includes details on how we will be paying for mosquito control efforts, even when it is, quote, just to move the money, end quote. After all, that is our money that is being moved. We deserve the honesty, transparency, and inclusion we were promised. And my comment is, hooray! Absolutely. Wonderful. Smack that ball. Do you remember my comments last Friday, right here on Tall Tales? You know, based on what we had for information up to that point when we started the show. These were my comments. I'm going to repeat them here. And the headline was, Guam has first local dengue in 75 years. And then this is what I wrote. Okay, but what is actionable information? What is public health's response? What neighborhoods did this person travel in recently within the incubation period of the disease pre-symptoms? What chance is there that Guam's mosquitoes will become infected and become carriers? What is the transmission of the virus within the mosquito population? That was how I started out. That's how we started talking about this on Friday. And this was, granted, this was actually a confirmed locally contracted case after about a week of hearing about cases that had come in from outside of Guam and that had been identified. And about a week, right? And listening to kind of what was the response. And then here's a headline that says, we got our own locally grown case, which means it came from a mosquito, which means the mosquitoes got infected. There was so little information disseminated on Thursday when this story first broke. This is Thursday last week. By Friday night, electronic media was reporting on the response by GovGuam volunteers who had planned to clean beaches that day. Remember that? Remember that thing about, sign leave and go clean the beaches up? Yeah. But instead, there was a group of them that were sent to spray the area within 600 feet of the infected person's home. We, the public, could have used the weekend to address this with more urgency. And so I will repeat what I said about this editorial. Emergency declaration should have been voiced by the Pacific Daily News today on page 16. I said, hooray. And I am awarding Real Joe the Blue Star to the Pacific Daily News for today's editorial. Thank you very much, Pacific Daily News, for your spot on. I mean, really, you didn't mince words. You just got right to it, and there was no wasted effort, and there was no, you didn't beat around the bush at all. You just said it like it was. And it's so true. We deserve to hear about an emergency declaration because then we know. We can say, okay, so it's an emergency. What are they doing? Okay, they're moving money. They are directing. Okay, that all came out on Monday. But that left a whole weekend, and now we have a second case. And they're waiting for more to walk in the door. This is a hell of a way to run a railroad. And did you notice, Real Joe, did you notice it was raining outside?
It was raining hard earlier.
Yeah, so you noticed.
Yeah.
I almost didn't make it in on time today because of the ponding water on the roads. There were a couple of accidents on the way down here. I left a little early, and it took up all the time, extra time I had to navigate through.
A lot of flooding.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go back to, let's see, Sunday the 15th. National Weather Service, Guam Weather Forecast Office, put out a flash flood warning in effect until 6 o'clock on Sunday, right? And the headline is, practice caution on roadways reduced to 1 lane. And then it says, practice extreme caution on the following roadways where flooding continues or safe travel might be reduced to 1 lane. Polaris Point Route 1, Hamburger Road Harmon, San Vitores Road Tumon, Barragata Route 16, Artemio Cruz Street Jontnia, R. Camacho Way Barragata, near Ogden Store Barragata, Ledzang Barragata, Tai Road, Mingilo, 5th and 8th Streets, O'Brien Drive, Hagatnya, and Toto Cañada Loop Road, Barragata. And then the following areas are deemed impassable. Motorists are advised to seek alternate routes. This is Sunday afternoon at about 4 o'clock, right? Bradley Place in Iguac and Route 10 by Wendy's Barragata. Now, do you know, Real Joe, whether Public Works crews have finished that list for the next time it rains?
I'm not sure.
No, but the people who are out there right now driving the roads and listening to Tall Tales, who are driving through those areas, they know whether those areas have been touched or not.
It's all right, though, because it's Mad Max out there. Mad Max.
Is that the new normal?
Yeah. It's a Mad Max on the roads of Guam.
I was kind of, touching, switching lanes with and kind of, you know how it is, you kind of get on the road and you're kind of going along side by side with somebody else and you're switching lanes back and forth to get through the traffic quickly, right? Between St. John's and right up here in front of the point was a tractor for tractor trailer, you know?
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. He was, you know, he was just right up in there like he was driving a sports car.
Yeah, there's a lot of construction going on Guam.
But, ooh, exciting. You know, he didn't wipe anybody out. But you usually don't see that kind of attitude on the road. And I just wanted to, oh, man, we missed it.
Oh, we did. We missed it again.
We missed it. You know, does that mean that nobody needs a reminder?
Oh,
does that mean that we're late? We're late and they're on time.
I definitely need a reminder.
Yeah, I know. That's why I've got the paper out. Okay, what time is it? It's 4:25 and 36 seconds. Yeah, late. Joe, we're gonna have to get our priorities straight here.
You're right. I'm gonna work on it.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because certainly it's raining, and everyone who's going along on the road and might have to use any of these roads I just read out deserves to know whether Public Works got out there and cleared the areas for the water to drain away, since they were identified. And this is already Wednesday. They've had 2 whole days to get out there, or maybe even the mayors, to get out there with their crew and the boots and the mattock and the shovel, and clear the sod that has grown up, or the debris that's blocking the culvert, or whatever the deal is.
I wouldn't want to be out there doing that.
But somebody's got to do it, and there are people who are getting paid to do it.
You know, it's dangerous because of the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why there's... You spray yourself down. You know, there's things to do. Yeah, but you know, so what are you going to do? Let the water just stand there? Let the mosquitoes... You're supposed to be... They're supposed to be working on the drains.
I think the real question is the water standing or is it sitting?
If you drive through it, it flies.
That's true.
And that's kind of where we're going with this. You know, hopefully people are getting home. But you know, all water, and when we have an emergency where standing water breeds mosquitoes, and of course it's rainy season, and we understand all that. But when we have a situation where you have to eliminate standing water, at least we can get the standing water off the roads. You know, I'm not like the mosquitoes are going to be there, but if you're not getting it off the road, you're not even working on the drainage. It's got to keep moving. And something's keeping it from moving, which means that even the place that's not moving, it's not moving, and it's going to breed mosquitoes. So I just want to bring that up because I'm tired of having these stories like animal control, dogs and pigs, that come up when there's a slow news cycle, or when the mayor's council meets and they're pulling their hair out publicly over the issue, banging on the table, do something, please do something, pointing fingers. Okay? I hate it when we just let it go and let the next crisis be the one to, distract us from the solution. We really need to follow these issues until there are solutions and not let them go. So I'm going to keep this list of roads, and I'm going to remind people that Public Works knows which roads flood now, this month, September. And we'll see if Public Works and the mayors get out there and clear those roads. And maybe our listeners can call in and say, oh, yeah, they cleaned that road. I'd love to hear from you. Mingo Reese says, can DPW bus drivers help out with school manpower when they are not driving? Let's utilize resources that are readily available. If you've ever taken a look, Mingo, at the qualifications for a school bus driver, and ask yourself whether you want them in the schools after they just got done driving up and down and delivering the kids to school. If you want them also to have, contact time with students all the way up until they have to go back out and drive them home again, there are going to be some seriously mentally ill people driving the buses. I think they need the break. You know, that's all they can do to just focus on the job they've got. And they're good people, and we trust them with them. But they don't work for DOE. They work for the Department of Public Works. And they need to move those buses to the next position, you know, on the schedule to keep that schedule going. And if you got them in the schools, you may have to hold them back to answer, you know, fill out paperwork and stuff like that on whatever incident they were involved in. So, and then there'd be a lot of kids not getting home on time. So it's a good question. Thank you very much for bringing it up. But I've known a couple bus drivers in my time, and they've taken the job and they focus on what it is they have to do. And when they don't, everyone knows about it, right? It's public. So thank you for that. It's 4:31. Time for a break here. Let's do that and come back with more Tall Tales.
Well, everybody's heard about the bird. The bird, bird, bird. Circle K has a 3-pound rotisserie chicken, now available for the introductory price of $9.99. It's the biggest, tastiest, and most affordable rotisserie chicken of its kind on island. Save even more by getting a family meal with 2 sides and a bottle of wine for only $25.99. The Circle K rotisserie chicken. Get yours today. Circle K. Take it easy.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mescla. Try their featured special for September. Southern Spice Crispy Fried Chicken. Louisiana-inspired fried half chicken served with red beans and rice. Available in Agotna and in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
UNC's Neuroscience and Neurology Department treats a wide spectrum of disorders associated with the nervous system, spine, and brain. Some of the more common disorders include seizures, epilepsy, dementia, sleep disorders, migraine, and stroke, which is one of the leading causes of death on Guam. GRMC's neuroscience team is equipped with the latest technology and the finest neurological doctors. To make an appointment, contact GRMC Specialty Clinics at 645-5500.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Absolutely. Yes, I am here. Just in time. You know, yesterday I want to thank you for hanging with me. We were talking about the GovGuam health insurance issue and also GMH. And that's another problem that we're not done with. And I really appreciate getting the call yesterday from Dr. Vince Akimoto and hearing his perspective on it, because he is a professional and he is on the inside of that organization. And so I thank him very much from this bully pulpit for calling in and participating in the show yesterday. And we opened the paper today, and what do we find? On page 2 of the Guam Daily Post today, GMH owes $5.6 million in withholding taxes for prior years. Now, what's that about? What in the world is that about? And of course, the chair of the Health Committee expresses, rightfully so, expresses umbrage at this, and it took the current director of the hospital. You know, she was surprised, but she says, "Oh yeah, but we're current from during this administration." Current. And then it says, Senator Trelaw, who is the chair of the Health Committee, the legislature these days, said she has held numerous status hearings, meetings with regard to the budget, and have kept in constant communication with hospital administration on the various challenges our public hospital is facing. At no point has this debt ever been disclosed to me until today. Now, you know, we've seen over the years how the administrators of GMH, and it's like going back how many administrations? It's as if they're wrapped in the flag. You know, they make sure they're wearing, except the ones who are obviously not doctors, they've got those doctor coats on. Can't shoot me. It's like someone wrapping himself in the American flag. Can't shoot me, you're going to hit the flag, right? Don't criticize me because it's our Guam's only public hospital, and we rely on it, and God forbid that you end up here in the next 20 minutes, you know, and we'll be standing over top of you going, so you expect us to work on you, huh? You know, that kind of thing, right? When all we're trying to do is separate out the medicine from the administration so that the money that is being asked for, the many millions of dollars that are being asked for, we have this comfort zone about taking it from some other use to give to the hospital. Like taking it out of taxpayer pockets in increased taxes. Because certainly if we didn't have these expenses, the legislature wouldn't have to raise taxes. But it seems that these revelations from the hospital about what they really need to spend money on come up weeks or months after they have already gone to the public with a full court press about how they have to have money for something else. Oh, and by the way, we need money for this other thing too. And does anybody ever is anybody ever punished or sanctioned or, you know, become held responsible, held accountable for the way that the hospital is administered? Now, the federal agency that pays out the Medicare money, Medicaid money, they're looking at the hospital and they said, nah, you know, there's too many problems with this hospital. You're on thin ice. You're one step away from being ineligible to receive money, to participate in our program. And the association that examines hospitals and says whether a hospital is meeting standards has pulled its endorsement because GMH is not meeting standards. That's accreditation. Yet it doesn't slow down the administrators of the hospital from making sure that money is devoted to uses that are unnecessary. And they seem to be not working on the priorities until somebody outside the hospital throws a bag of money at them. And this goes over and over and over again. Who's ever going to solve it? Should we just write off this governor and say, no, not going to solve it? She's not going to solve it because she's doing it exactly the same as the other ones. Maybe we should stop fooling ourselves. Or we need to ask, when are we going to start seeing evidence that the hospital is being operated the right way, in a manner that will provide that confidence in us that we're moving, as the last governor would like to say, in the right direction. I'm not saying that our current governor needs to move GMH in the direction that the last governor moved it in. That would be a misinterpretation of what I'm saying here. But certainly, in the direction that we want it to move in. If they're not going to economize, if they're not going to trim their costs up there, if they're not going to prioritize the items that they say that are priority, and they're going to keep those priorities that don't appear on any list, sorry, we're not going to be, it's going to be like this, it's going to keep going on like this. Because we're not going to have any confidence that the money we give them is going to go to where they say it's going to go. And they could help pay for their needs by trimming their expenses, admin expenses, contract expenses, unnecessary contracts. As Dr. Akimoto was describing yesterday, $20 million for a new health record tracking system when they could just get one. Oh, $20 million to acquire $18 million a year to maintain. It would be cheaper to contract it all out to somebody who doesn't even live on Guam than to pay that kind of money to those who do. When we could just get a $2 million program and not have any license fees for out years. And train our people to operate that system. It's just a system. It's just another way to move documents electronically and securely. So I'm so impressed by this story. I just wonder when there will actually be effective oversight. And it appears that the chair is going to. So she has scheduled an oversight hearing from 2 to 4 p.m. on October 3rd to discuss the status of GMH critical capital improvement projects and issues with the elevators and staffing. Quote, and we'll be sure to examine the non-payment of withholding taxes and how soon they will resolve this debt. Well, they need more than 2 hours for that. It may take 2 weeks or 2 months of repeated and targeted specific hearings and commitment on the part of the administration. And we've got a call. Welcome to Tall Tales, Jay.
Hi, Mr. Tuggery?
Yes, yes. Welcome to Tall Tales. Thanks for calling.
Hi, this is Jay Andre. We've spoken before.
Yes.
Hey, the reason I'm calling is something's eating at me, and it's these riots. And I don't know if you want to, put it on your show or have time to discuss it.
Well, you're bringing it up. Come on, tell me what's your concern. That's why these lines are open.
I'm watching this in the news and reading it in the paper, and our children, my wife and I, we have 2 boys, and they were both products of the public school system. And so I'm looking from the outside in a little bit now, but we have 3 grandchildren that are coming up in the public school system. And I see this, and I'm just quite disturbed of the lack of respect for authority in our schools from our children. And just to kind of put it right out there, nobody's ever brought up putting GPD officers on campus during instructional hours. And I wanted your opinion.
Okay, I would be happy to field that. Actually, there are places around the nation and around the world where line officers, police officers are stationed in schools, but usually that is because they have some kind of a gang war about to break out, and they need to have trained armed lethal force ready within 100 feet situation. That's not what we've got in our schools today. We do have, which happens in every generation, lack of respect for authority, and We also have it's difficult for adults to understand what that next generation's priorities are and means of communication and slang and how to weigh the issues without becoming too without reacting inappropriately, because after all, these are kids. They're not adults, but there are within the school troublemakers and people who are going to act out and people who are troubled, and it is the responsibility of the school, the adults within the school, with teachers, aides, counselors, administrators, to monitor that school population effectively and to respond appropriately. Because whenever you're talking about putting 1,200, 2,500 people in one spot, it's your responsibility to manage that. Manage that situation you've created and you are administering as a function of your job description. Teachers maintain order in their classrooms. They're responsible for the students who are sitting in front of them in that room. There are adults on the campus who are not assigned to a classroom or to an office or to a cafeteria, and they are moving around in those spaces, hallways and spaces around the schools. And they're supposed to keep their eyes open. They're supposed to know. And and the administrator, the principal, whoever is the administrator for the school, is supposed to be in charge of those systems. And so I don't know of any GPD officer who is trained specifically to go into a school and be sensitive to handle minors in situations that are non-lethal, and if there are riots.
Mr. Taggarty, I worked in a school system not long ago, and I understand what you're saying. And I think what my point is you say in a non-lethal environment. Well, what I read in the paper today is one student witnessed, one of the supposed perpetrators using a metal pipe, and the battle got bloody. And to me, I mean, if it's getting bloody, it could become lethal. And if it's a matter of training, some officers in GPD to learn how to deal with minors, I mean, they're going to have to deal with minors if they commit crimes outside the school.
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, if they can do, coffee with the community and things like that, and we want them to patrol our streets a little bit more, I'm all for that. But at the same time, I mean, the schools are supposed to be a safe haven for our children and my grandchildren to come. And we can't accept this as normal practice. And by the time the police get called, because in my opinion, these high school students that I've seen in these, past two riots in the paper, by the time the police get there, I mean, it's a little bit too late, if you ask me, because some of the perpetrators could have kind of fled the scene or, whatever.
Yes, you're right. It might break up before, and actually somebody might get really hurt seriously or killed before the officers arrive. And if this happens, every 3 days, in not only one school but in several different schools, and violent attacks, and it becomes a pattern like this, then there would be that kind of response in kind to have people who are trained. It might not be police officers. It might be people who are like the DYA staff, or they might be counseling staff who work or as social workers or as volunteers for counseling troubled youths who are placed in there to identify where because prevention is really where it happens, and the students who are right there within 10, 15 feet are in a position to be upstanding citizens and notify the authorities before things get out of hand. This is not something new. I mean, just take a look at a West Side Story, the movie, okay, the stage play. This is nothing new. It happens every generation. I remember when I was in school, back in the 60s, we had the stingers and, we had gangs. But, and in the 70s, early 70s, drugs, heavy drugs. And so I'm not minimizing your concern, and I think that this is on the minds of many people these days. What kind of response are we going to have? And that's why on the editorial today in the Guam Daily Post, I didn't think that it was appropriate response because it hasn't risen to that level. Hope God help us that it ever does, but I don't think we're there yet. But thank you.
Well, if I could ask you, Mr. Shaggerty,
sure.
Do you feel that the students look at the parent pros and the administration as they don't have a certain level of authority that an officer would, whether it be a police officer or somebody appointed, like from DYA or somebody like that, that could, do something a little bit higher in regards to, like, correcting the problem or, taking a student off the campus. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I think that if you were to place authority figures within the school population, first off, they would have to be recognized not only by the students who are law-abiding and there for an education, but also by the troublemakers. And that is kind of where I think you're going with this. As a deterrent, is to place somebody who is a strong authority figure within the schools. And now I will leave it up to the experts to tell us whether this would be basically taking the responsibility and onto adult hands, which is not a bad idea, but to do so and absolve the student population from helping watch out for a deteriorating situation within their own, 20 feet around them. And that is why I would encourage the students who are willing to stand up and take responsibility for the quality of the education that they're getting to assist in keeping the schools focused on education and relationships and growing up and being a safe place, rather than to simply say to ourselves and to them that they can't be trusted, they can't be relied upon. We need to go in there and have people ready to knock them down. Because
I think I see what you're getting at, and just to add to that a little bit is I agree with even to like mentorship and stuff like that, of helping others that are having trouble in the system. They don't like going to school or whatever the problem may be. But then imposing that on the students that are there trying to get their education, who are truly there and doing their best, and then saying, well, we need your help because we have these troubled students who are rioting. Can you help step in? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Jake, can we hold on for just a few minutes? Let's take a break, and then we'll come back to this after these messages.
Sounds great.
Save big. Save really big when you bundle up your insurance policies with Nanbo Insurance. Insure your home, auto, motorcycle, or business with Nanbo and enjoy great savings, up to 50%. When it comes to insuring your property, no one knows better than the company with over 50 years of service to the community. Don't compromise the things that matter to you most. Call Nanbo today at 477-9754 or visit nanbo.com for more information. Nanbo Insurance, serving you since 1968. Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. We've got Jay. We're talking about on the line. We're talking about safety in the schools. Jay, let me read out a couple of comments that came in on Facebook Live. Jennifer King says they are called school resource officers, and they are not only in schools with gang problems. That is a complete mischaracterization of their purpose and role in schools. And then Lynn, Vince, Borja Polino say, we do have school resource officers that are assigned to the schools, but I don't know why they haven't been useful during these riots. And then continues, I don't see that they made any difference at all on campus. I'm not saying that they, they're school resource officers, and it may not be that they're actually there to be, Johnny on the spot, to run out and address some kind of a riot. But at the same time, and this is kind of where I'm trying to get with this, is that we have adults who are paid to work on the campus directly with the students. That's all they're there for, and to manage those other adults who are on the campus working with the students. It's a whole system, and there are a couple thousand students on campus, and there are how many schools, and the system apparently works when within that population, which comes right out of the same homes as the adults that are driving down the road and going to work and hanging out at wherever and going to stores and whatnot. The same adults that you see running around, they all come back to these homes. The students come back to those homes, and then they go back out again the next day. So the issues in the schools are going to be between students. If we think that it's between that it's a more of a systemic problem, like it was when there were really very active gangs and became more organized, then of course an organized response would be called for, a kind of organization to address that issue. And it is organized crime, basically, because that's not authorized activity in the schools. Mm-hmm. So the question is, of these two, and I haven't seen that in the paper, whether these two incidents that have happened, right? It was one at JFK and one at Teason.
Teason, right.
Right, so there's two. Now, was there any relation between the two besides being in the same time on the calendar? Or were these, because there are people who know that students involved, was this something that had been just kind of boiling and then it finally burst out? But the adults are supposed to know because they are in charge in that school during those times with those people.
Right.
Jay, gonna have to take a break here for the top of the hour, so I invite you to call back after the top of the hour and we can continue. But thank you so much for the call.
Thank you, Mr. Taggarty.
Thank you, Jay. It's almost 5 o'clock and time for Fox News at 5 and our halftime show. I'll be here for another hour, so stay tuned. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon here on Tall Tales.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
An impeachment hearing, or was it? I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. A contentious hearing on Capitol Hill Tuesday. The House Judiciary Committee's Democrat Chairman Jerry Nadler calling it the first impeachment hearing. But the ranking Republican member, Georgia Representative Doug Collins, said it wasn't because the full House has not authorized an impeachment inquiry.
I've never seen a majority so amazed with packaging in all my life. You know why? Because they can't sell what's inside. They can't sell the product.
Democrats quizzed Corey Lewandowski whether he had pressured former Attorney General Jeff Sessions at the president's request to drop a probe of Russian election meddling. Lewandowski said he did not and declined to answer many of the questions about his conversations with the president.
Congressman, the White House has directed not to disclose the substance of any discussion with the president or his advisors to protect executive branch confidentiality.
Two former White House staffers declined to appear at the Judiciary Committee hearing on the advice of the White House. First-term Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, a member of the self-dubbed Squad, filing a congressional resolution calling for an impeachment inquiry into Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh over decades-old third-party claims of sexual misconduct. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham says any such vote by the House would merely be a political exercise.
Any impeachment of Judge Kavanaugh based on the New York Times story is dead on arrival in the Senate. Any impeachment of President Trump based on the Mueller report is dead on arrival in the United States Senate.
Senator Graham speaking with Fox's Sean Hannity, still awaiting final election results from Israel. With more than 90% of the votes counted, the returns are nearly deadlocked between the Likud party of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Blue and White party led by former military chief Benny Gantz. Asian stocks closing Wednesday mixed. Dow futures are lower as well, down nearly 40 points. America is listening to Fox News.
Chili's Guam invites you to our new location, now open on the second floor of Tumon Sands Plaza. For the past 10 years, we have made Guam our home and celebrated moments with our familia and friends. From birthdays to first dates, anniversaries, and everything else in between. We're keeping it going with our new location where you can hang out with family and friends over fajitas, burgers, ribs, and margaritas. Treat yourself to an elevated guest experience at Chili's like no place else. Now open on the second floor of Tumon Sands Plaza. Chili's, new location, same bold flavors.
Water. It covers nearly 3/4 of our Earth. From vast oceans to millions of rivers and streams. We're all concerned with protecting our world's water, but none is more important than the water you and your family drink and use throughout your home. A Connecticut water treatment system can improve your water so that your family is using the best water in the world. Connecticut, for refreshing ideas on water.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
The Federal Reserve Board expected to make an announcement about interest rates today.
The central bank is widely expected to cut interest rates by 1/4 percentage point to a range of 1 3/4 to 2% at the conclusion of its two-day meeting this afternoon. This would be the Fed's second rate cut since its last meeting on July the 31st, as they look to keep the longest economic expansion on record going into a 12th year while trying to protect the economy from a global slowdown and the effects of the U.S.-China trade war. It's unlikely that the Fed will signal plans for a series of future rate cuts, rather making policy decisions one meeting at a time. Hillary Barsky, Fox News.
Hurricane force winds are beginning to batter Bermuda. Hurricane Umberto, now at Category 3 strength, with winds at 115 miles an hour, will pass northwest of the island over the next several hours. It is not expected to make landfall there. Tropical storm Imelda has been downgraded to a tropical depression after coming ashore in southeast Texas, bringing lots of rain with it.
Areas that could see locally of 6 to 10 inches with isolated amounts up to 15 inches.
That's meteorologist Andy Latto at the National Hurricane Center. North Carolina's state legislature due to approve new legislative district maps today after a state court ordered the last map drawn to be unconstitutional.
I was working out and I just hear like a thumb, like a little boom. And I come out the window and I just see all that. And I was like, wow, it's crazy.
That is a man in New Rochelle, New York, who came outside of the Trump Plaza in New Rochelle after he heard a boom that he just described. Police say a car smashed through the glass front door lobby at the Trump Plaza in New Rochelle. The incident on Tuesday does not appear to be intentional. Police say there are no indications that that was anything more than an accident. Luckily, nobody was injured. In New York, I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with a true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine. A bistro look that feels like home. Their menu features local and traditional flavors with a twist. From their famous Kelaguen Hapa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs. Mescla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mescla, a true taste of Guam.
We understand what matters to you because at Docomo Pacific, we're a family too. With the Now Family program, mom, dad, and kids stay connected on the latest devices the whole family can enjoy. For just $155 a month, get 3 lines with 30 gigs of 4G LTE data each, and endless use of your favorite apps without affecting your monthly data bucket. Add more, get more, save more. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who will be back in 19 days. 19 days. And just to go back, a recap here. As of yesterday, the Zami Kotani tally between the Guam Daily Post and the Pacific Daily News was 141 for the Post and PDN 52. And so today we will add 1 to PDN's score, and it will be, tomorrow will be Post 141, PDN 53. That's how it goes here on Tall Tales. Welcome back. Thank you very much for tuning in. To see online that Margaret Bloss is there, saying Buenos Daryl, Zan Tautau Guam. I believe she's hailing from California, so very happy to have you with us, Margaret, online. And Louis Cool says hello from Alaska. And he says, I am a bus driver. I think parents have to stand up for education. And young people need to take classes on how to be a human being, respect for themselves and others. Well, you know, yes, parents have to do that. And the school system is the one offering the classes. Teachers these days have little latitude on what to teach. They're told exactly what to teach and how to teach, but they're not encouraged to teach life skills. They do so in their manner by the way that they treat their students. Now, who am I to say this? You know, but I am a parent, and my 2 sons went through public school for elementary. They're now one in middle and one in high. And my father was a lifelong teacher. I learned how to read as he was finishing up his college to become a teacher, and was a teacher all the way back in the time when JFK was still Tumon Junior Senior High School. And I attended the old Wettingale and the brand new, spanking new Dedido Junior High School. And the first year was built. And also, my dad was in education administration, not for DOE, but for DOD. Not at DOD schools, but as base education officer for nearly 20 years up at Anderson. And then went back to teaching school at Simon Sanchez, and then finished up his teaching career not that long ago, just in the past several years, as a substitute up at Anderson Middle School. And for myself, whenever I've kind of between jobs and it's not radio, it's not politics, I go down to DOE and offer my services as a substitute and can pretty much walk into any class at any level and make sure the students are on track, be the adult in the room, and hopefully teach them something during the few minutes I'm there. But teachers do this day in, day out. And I also was an active parent in the PTA. So I've been in schools, and I've spoken to the students and to the administrators. Chris Chip says, society has created this problem, this handling everything with kid gloves and everyone's right to express themselves. Was the way your generation brought you up wrong? See, that's kind of the question that we have to ask ourselves. Do we want to, create, or actually the positions are there in GPD for community policing. And they're having trouble just recruiting enough people to keep up with the attrition rate, the natural attrition rate for those police who have done their duty and are ready to retire, ready to come in off the streets. Because they've been doing it for us for how many years? And they've got to be replaced with young blood. And are there enough applicants to not only replace the ones that are out there, but also to increase community policing in our villages? And now we're going to place them in the schools. I'm just as a solution. That's a narrow solution, and it's a good starting point for a discussion. But it seems like a very narrow solution that is appropriate when there is something like, it's like, do you call a doctor for a certain kind of an injury? Or would a physician's assistant or a nurse or your mom do? And so the question is, what is the appropriate reaction? And that I have to trust the people who are in those schools who deal with this every day in every way and know the people involved. And they don't have to tell the whole public what the deal was in detail about the specific students and what their problems were, and but we have to trust them to handle this and to sound the alarm if they need additional help, which they did, and there was help that arrived. But to take as a starting point the assignment of government personnel from another agency to come in. A good starting point for a discussion, and we need to keep this in perspective. Yeah, Louis Cool says, you are so right, and I live in a village in Alaska. Well, that's right, too. But it gets cold there, right? It's going to get cold. It's getting cold already. Boy, thank you, Louis, for joining us this afternoon. It's gray and it's raining outside, but boy, it was really sunny earlier. And that fresh breeze when that front moved through, ooh, nice. Just enjoying it. Too bad we don't have enough coconut trees to enjoy the swaying and all that good stuff from when we were younger. Chris Chip says, raising kids is not some kind of social experiment. Daryl, the way our generation was raised after World War II Korea was strict and prepared us for the life. You know, Chris, it doesn't matter whether you and I were raised properly. How did, because I'm grandparent age. So the question is, how were the parents of the students who are in the schools right now raised? And how do we respond to that? Because if we're going to change the whole society and come down as I'm not disagreeing that parents should raise their children to be more respectful and to, the way we were raised, work, find things to do, stop wasting time, move that wood pile because termites, don't talk back, get away from the TV. That's enough. Stay off the phone. You're tying up the party line. Are the parents of the students that are in the schools now equipped? And what kind of students children are coming out of not only the schools but the society? And the ones who would really know, getting back to this, the ones who would really know what kind of students are in the schools are the people who work in those schools, because that is their job every day. The teachers have their roster. They have the protocol for observing carefully each student and reporting problems that children are having within that where it's acting out in school. And then the administrators are empowered to make referrals and to aggregate this information and make recommendations. And so I will defer to them. They are the professionals that we depend on and we pay well to do this work. They should be more active. But what I understand is that we're not paying them to shape the society. But perhaps we should be listening to them or giving them a way to tell us what they're seeing so that as a society we can make those decisions. And it's sort of like a mirror, reflect it back to so that parents can see what is the outcome, what's resulting from the way that they're parenting in the aggregate, because not to take away anyone's individuality or responsibility, whether it's the child or the parent. But we can only, where this all intersects is in the public square. That's the only place that we really can address it as a body politic, as a society, discussing it in the media, but through public employees, because if it becomes a public issue, at the point it becomes a public issue. Let's see. Louis Cool says, yes, and moose hunting season now. Our problem here, drugs and alcohol abuse. And because of these issues, we have the highest rate of suicide. We lost 3 people due to suicide this year. I don't know what the background population is, but that could be a large or a small number. Chris Chip says, stop listening to those supposed educators. They're the ones that brought about the changes. Yeah, I was taking a look at this, at an article here. A bill would help enforce standards for teachers. And this was a column by Aline Yamashita back in the PDN back on the 12th. And I was kind of holding this until we have more time to discuss Bill 203, which would have the union negotiate salaries of teachers and support staff, and also benefits for special education aides. She says decades ago benefits were removed as a cost-saving measure. You might remember me saying on occasion that, with all due respect to the host of Tall Tales, Bob Klitzkie, who was the author of Every Child is Entitled to an Adequate Education Act, that while it's true, the policy, the government policy, focuses on inputs and does not focus on what it takes to produce the desired outputs. And to document the outputs, what are the results of what we put in? That part is a bit more difficult to describe, but I don't see a lot of effort to describe or to have the right to gather the information so that we know what we're producing with all those inputs. And so, but this always comes up when I see a discussion about we need to put more into education, into teachers, into structure, into Common Core, into textbooks, into aircons, into art, music, dance, charter schools. And the answer is really going to be closer to, and this is kind of a recurring answer, the answer is going to look something like us. It's going to look something like the census of this community by age, income distribution, educational attainment, amount of taxes paid each year, that we're going to be able to address it based on who we are, not based on what or who is coming from outside. These are our features, whether it's problems or resources. And so we're the ones that need to organize our own resources to address our own problems and take advantage of our own opportunities. Louis Cool says, thank you. Sorry for my spelling. Take care. Well, thank you very much, Louis, for joining us and commenting on Facebook Live here this afternoon. I do appreciate. Yeah, do you take care too? Just don't go shooting any moose. It's up on a hill or a ledge above you, because if you're good enough shot, that thing's going to fall.
It's meese.
Meese?
Yeah, the plural of moose.
But you only shoot one at a time.
Meeses.
That's you can only do that in Tom and Jerry, and you got to use the sand, the sand shot in the shotgun, not the buckshot or the slug. But thank you for the discussion. I don't often talk about education, but it kind of gets back into that when you're talking about having to augment the schools with police officers in order to address incidents such as what we've seen in the paper the last couple of days. Now, if we get one of these every 3 days and it spreads to other schools and the tensions are rising in the schools and the students are coming home going, I don't know if I feel safe in school, then it's a different matter. My response here is, and my approach is not the final word. The final word really is going to come from the students who don't want to put up with this stuff, don't want the distractions, and will finger the troublemakers and let the adults know who are responsible for that facility on a daily basis where the next trouble is coming from. That is how our society relies on the character of its citizens. That's a solution. It is not, where's my hammer? Where's my belt? Did anybody see Waterworks ads in the paper? Real Joe, did you notice the Waterworks ads?
Ads for...
Invitation to bid.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't see those ads. I thought you were going to say they lowered the rates.
No, they can't do that. They had to go out and put out bonds. Now, the reason they put those bonds out there and they have the money coming in and they set the rates they have is so they could have a plan, capital improvement plan to replace leaky pipes and leaky tanks and whatnot. So here are the two ads that appeared in yesterday's PDN. One, invitation to bid, pressure zone realignment construction phase 1. And the other one is tank repair and bypass. So what this has to do with is the construction of transmission lines. Once upon a time, the water system was the wells would pump to a tank, and then the lines from the tank went out to the homes and businesses. Then they didn't build tanks, and more water was needed, so they would put a well in and plug it and connect it straight to the distribution line going to your house. And there was no more water in the tank. So the wells had to provide the pressure for your house. But every time the power would go out, no water. So they put generators on the wells. And people started stealing the generators, stealing the wire to the wells and this kind of stuff, right? Well, GWA has been rebuilding the reservoirs, the water tanks. And they are, that's what this is about, pressure zone realignment, construction phase 1. Calculate the amount of pressure that's needed in the lines that link the tanks. Not something you have to worry about. Just when you go to bed tonight and you're saying your prayers, say a prayer for the people over at Guam Waterworks Authority who are slowly but surely rebuilding the water system to a standard, a design standard that is more in line with the way it should be run and not an ad hoc system. Jobs available. Next couple of minutes, let's take a look at the job openings. The University of Guam is looking for an assistant professor with a PhD degree in philosophy, and it may be a foreign equivalent. Foreign philosophy? Yeah, some of that Greek philosophy or, Tantric, Tibetan. Teach undergrad and grad students courses in philosophy at university. Conduct research in field. Send your resume to the University of Guam if you have a PhD in philosophy and you're kind of sitting there wondering what to do. An accountant for JWS Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Limited. Bachelor's degree in accounting. 2 years experience as an accountant. And let's see, an accountant or audit ready accountant. Choice Phone, our parent company, one of our sister companies here at Choice iConnect. And also UNEX is looking for an electrical engineer with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, 3 years experience as an electrical or technical sales engineer. Hawaiian Dredging Construction is looking for a project engineer or estimator, and estimator. And I see that the Higher Guam folks at American Job Center are looking for 18 carpenters and 20 reinforcing metal workers, all of them with 1 year experience. And they list the salaries. It catches my eye because it's interesting to see what kinds of jobs are available. And I don't know why they aren't filled easily, or maybe this is just the normal attrition. But we should keep track of just how our society is evolving here, and what kinds of jobs, good jobs, good jobs for whoever is here on Guam to take the jobs. Isn't that why in the States they're going through all those machinations to make sure the southern border is closed, so that and doing raids on illegal immigrants who are working, so that Americans can get the jobs. People who have been either born here or legally admitted. It's 5:30, isn't it? Time for our 7th inning stretch, Real Joe? So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll come back with more Tall Tales.
Hey, do you know what time the bank closes? I need to deposit my check.
You know you can do that from your phone.
I can?
With Bank of Guam's mobile app, it's easy. Just endorse the back and snap a pic to deposit it into your account. You can do this from anywhere, anytime, which means no rushing to catch the bank and no lines.
With Bank of Guam's mobile app and online banking, we're always open. Visit bankofguam.com for more information. Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. Member FDIC.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
How black can black be? I'm going to have that answer for you, plus the reason I ask the question. I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll see what we can find when we're not looking for it.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. We've got about another half hour to go here. If you'd like to give us a call, 888-8255, 888-TALK. Or you can join us on Facebook Live. Just go to, The Point Live, Guam. Now, before the break, I was taking a look at some of the want ads, and I see here that in the yesterday's Guam Daily Post, boot camp for future truckers offered at GCC. And so the boot camp began on Monday and will continue through November 30th. And it's Guam Community College partnering with 6 local companies to hold a truck driving transportation boot camp aimed at addressing the shortage of licensed and trained commercial truck drivers on Guam. And it says this is the same approach used for the highly successful GCC Ship Repair Transportation Boot Camp that completed on August 16. All 21 graduates of the Ship Repair Boot Camp were hired as apprentices by Cabris Marine Corporation. So this is all good news, to have effective trades education right here in the community for residents. It's not the same as putting an ad in the paper and saying we need these people. And that's the way that it's been done over the years. How many decades of simply saying, I need skilled carpenters, but I'm only going to pay $13.10 an hour. And people locally go, yeah, but I can get 22 or $25 if I go to California, and I still have to pay my union dues, and I have to pay for my ticket there. But, you know, that kind of calculation goes on in the minds of people who are here, and the easy answer has been for decades, oh, just get H-2. And so locally, anybody who has the skills can look forward to earning more in the mainland, and otherwise just let the cost of construction stay low by bringing in outside workers. There's something to be said for that. But you lose you don't generate the jobs for your own residents. I also found in the paper, when was this? No, it was a couple days back. Guam Election Commission has put out an invitation for bid, and maybe you're in a position to respond. The due date is, let's see, the IFB. Okay, the bid packet was available last Friday. It's due on Monday, October 14. Guam Election Commission is looking for central count voting systems with software and professional services. Central count voting systems. So they're advertising for new voting machines or processing machines. And it'll be interesting because the specifications hopefully are going to include anti-hacking. With all the news that's been going on past couple of years, hope they don't get machines that have been found as rejected by states. There have been a couple of stories that popped up. One in late August. It was mentioned by Ray about a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago. And then one that popped up just yesterday. The one that came up a couple weeks back is entitled, 200 years ago, the Cherokee Nation was offered a seat in Congress. It just announced its chosen delegate. And it's a story for the Washington Post that appeared on August 27 of this year. And they go through and they talk about the history of the Cherokee Nation and the deal that it made, the divisions within the community, up to whether to uphold that deal, whether they were party to the deal, and whether it was broken or not, and whether who among the Cherokee Nation descendants consider that deal to be valid today, and whether the U.S. government considers that deal to be valid. The signatures are there. And I see here that in the paper yesterday, Guam Daily Post on page 13, lawmaker to propose changes to Puerto Rico debt restructuring law. And it's Representative Raul Grijalva of Arizona said at a committee hearing in October he'll present a draft proposal regarding the 2016 law known as PROMESA, which created a financial oversight board that exercises considerable control over Puerto Rico's finances. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of what he's going to propose, and he hasn't put it out there yet. But he is going to propose this. And the point I wanted to make with this, whenever you see these kinds of stories in the paper, national stories about Congress paying attention to issues in territorial governance. Whenever I see these, it makes me think that whatever they're saying to them, the Cherokee Nation or to Puerto Rico, whatever the discussion is with the Cherokee Nation and Puerto Rico, our delegate and our governor had better be keeping an eye on what is being said. Whatever the discussion is, as any proposal on federal territorial relations is moving through the House, through the Senate, with the White House through the agency review process and consider whether it's going to be caught up in the presidential or partisan politics of the day, of today. And speaking, you know, it never used to be like this, but now the president has been venting his personal perspective on Puerto Rico, based on his relationship with elected leaders, the mayor of San Juan, and without taking sides on it or saying, you know, one is automatically right on it. Just consider that whatever the discussion is, it can, in a moment, somebody could toss in a line, offer a line saying, you see the problem we're having with our territories? You see the problem over here? It's typical. And we get painted with the same brush. And maybe to deflect from that particular issue, they send people out here looking to see whether there's a trend, whether we're doing the same as what Puerto Rico is doing, and do a little deep digging, or all they have to do is tune into Tall Tales and see what we're talking about, and form opinions about that as staff, recommending to their voting bosses who have more power over the territories than our own delegate St. Nicholas does, who do participate in federal policy making and whose voices do matter because they have their hands on the levers of government that created our Organic Act that organized civilian community on Guam. And so whenever I see these articles, I'm thinking I hope our people are paying attention. It is what we expect of them. And I sleep better at night knowing that the governor is served by the close and able assistance of Tony Babauta, who's been there, done that, and Delegate St. Nicholas, who is in his first term and looking to make a name for himself and to show us just what he's made of. And I rely on their motivation to do well in our eyes. But we will be coming back to this in the future. Watch out. It might be in tomorrow's headlines. How do we know? 542. What's on your mind? You can give us a call here, 888-8255. And if not, I'm going to take a look at this. What was it? Oh, yeah, just this Monday. Remember I was saying about how we're going to keep an eye on some issues because something new will jump up and kind of grab our attention, and then we will forget about it until the next time it happens? So in the Guam Daily Post this past Monday, 2 days ago, on page 6, the headline reads, Recycling Company Discussing Lease Issue. So an issue that's been going on since, 2006. Wow. And here's a discussion. Daniel Chu, General Manager of Global Recycling Center, speaking with John O'Connor of Guam Daily Post about his side of the story that Chamorro Land Trust Commission is putting out concerning the land that Global Recycling is on. And it turns out that all the brouhaha from several weeks ago about the recycling company hasn't even make payments or didn't even sign a lease. And we've issued them a cease and desist order. And Daniel Chu says, when the media reported that the Chamorro Land Trust Commission voted to issue a cease and desist letter to his company, he said it was surprising. There were no regulations for commercial leasing during the last communication with the land trust. told Guam Daily Post in mid-August. Now the company is negotiating with the Chamorro Land Trust in an effort to resolve the issue. Talks began in early September, but nothing concrete's been developed, and the cease and desist letter has not been received by the company. What's with that? We have a commission that acted formally, and its decision has not been implemented. And, the chairwoman said that during a meeting in August that the most recent letter to Chu from the Chamorro Land Trust was in January of 2015. I guess that was when they were getting ready, but since then they've ordered a cease and desist letter, but that hasn't been. And then Chu said he's been in business for more than a decade and needed to continue the business. He said he believed the community needed its services as well. And this is the metal recycler up there and by next door to where the Public Works used to operate a solid waste transfer station. It's a very large yard where people bring in metal primarily, and it's weighed, and it's accepted, sorted, and it is moved off the island in a systematic manner. I've done it. I've taken truckloads of metal there. They pay for metal, and they're very strict. Take a bicycle in there. If the bicycle has plastic pedals and rubber tires and rubber grips on it, they'll say, take it out of here. We can't take it. It's mixed. It has to be only the metal. And they run it competently, fairly, and they're open the days they're open, which is almost every day. And they're doing what it is that needs to be done. Every time a ship pulls into the harbor, coming from the States or from another area around the Pacific Rim, it's discharging container loads of things. Where do we think those things are going to end up? We're generating waste at the same rate, unless it's something that's going into constructing a building. Those new things are replacing old things. And those old things have to go into a waste stream. So I'm happy to bring this up, but maybe this should go into the stack of articles about animal control and what was the other one? GMH and the flooding roadways. At some point in the discussion, we're going to and political status, right? At some point in our discussion here, we're going to remind ourselves, and maybe this is as good a time as any, that back in November, we went to the polls and elected officials who would be responsible for leading our government in an effort to address ongoing and chronic and future problems that are of priority to us. And so, as these stories pop up, I'm looking for solutions. I'm not looking to describe the problem. I'm looking for, where does it say that people are actually solving anything? Because that's when I'll know that my vote and your vote mattered. Not to be cynical about it and say, well, our vote didn't matter because they're just going out doing the same old thing. No, not at all. We've got a good system, but if we're not holding them accountable it doesn't work. We have to hold our public officials accountable for what they're doing in real time. Don't wait for the election. Because if you wait for the election, it's going to be all flowers and pastel-colored fogs about how wonderful things are. And with that, I am reminded that it's time to take our last break for the show. So let's do that right now, Real Joe, and everyone will come back in just a few minutes with more Tall Tales.
30 years ago, the very first Subway restaurant opened in Guam. Now, 15 restaurants later, Subway Restaurants is celebrating this milestone with a buy one, get one free offer every weekend, starting September 14th through October 12th. Come celebrate 30 years. Enjoy your favorite sandwich, salad, or wrap, all made with freshly sliced veggies and bread baked in every store. Take advantage of this buy one, get one deal. It's Subway Restaurants' way of saying thank you, Guam, for 30 wonderful years. Subway, make it what you want.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your NFL fix every Friday on Sports with Blake. Get the latest updates as Blake and Mike break down the upcoming action. Get your game on with the boys on the hotline, 888-TALK, or sound off on Facebook Live at thepoint.gu. League members get a chance to win some awesome prizes that get you through the NFL season. The NFL Picks on the Ray Gibson Show is brought to you by Current Guam with special thanks to GTA. Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. Got a few minutes here. Again, our telephone number, 888-8255. Love to hear from you this afternoon. You got something on your mind. Digging down through the stack of stuff I brought in with me today, I found Invitation for Bid by Gura. I didn't put a date on this. I'm looking. Okay, yeah, it's this side. There's something equally interesting on the other side. Invitation for Bid, construction of a community art center in Sinahania. And the sealed proposals are due by October 18th. So on September 24th at 10 a.m., Gura will conduct a pre-bid conference at the Gura office in Sinahania. Site visits will be arranged by Gura staff after the pre-bid conference to anyone who desires an on-site visit. And then it goes on, you know, if you're one of those people. But construction of a community art center in Sinahania. So we're not talking about a new police headquarters in Sinahania. We're not talking about a community arts center in, Mengilau. So just want to let you know, things shaking, things going on in the community. Plans are being implemented, and that's always a good thing. I pulled out of the newspaper, I think this was, I'm not sure if it was Monday or yesterday, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 notices of public meetings. And all of them are going to be held either on the 24th or the 19th. And these are all government one is legislature, but the rest are all commissions, boards and commissions, and except for the public hearing that's being held by Senator Therese Chalahi, the Committee on Health, Tourism, Historic Preservation, Land, and Justice. Guam Board of Examiners for Optometry, 8:30 a.m., the 24th. Public Defender Service Corporation Board of Trustees at 12:30 on the 24th. Guam Council on the Arts and Humanities Agency regular board meeting, 3 p.m. on the 24th. What else on the 24th? Yeah, the Board of Directors for the A.B. Wampat International Airport Authority, 3 p.m., Tuesday the 24th. So if you're on both the CAHA board or something before them, and you're also interested in what's going on up at the airport, you can't make both meetings. You're going to have to get your staff to spread out. Rev and Tax, Real Estate Commission, September 24th at 2 p.m. And then on the 19th, the Chamorro Land Trust Commission will be meeting at 1 o'clock. Public comments will be received at 4:30. They said public comments will be held, but I think they meant received at 4:30 in the afternoon. Also, the Port Authority of Guam Board of Directors will be holding its regular board meeting on Thursday, September 19th at 3 o'clock. That's tomorrow. And Chamorro Land Trust also at 1 o'clock. And the public hearing at the legislature is for 1 o'clock tomorrow, public hearing on Bill 187 to adopt rules and regulations attached, codes of professional conduct and ethics by the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners. And then at 2 o'clock, first of a three-part series of informational briefings on medical malpractice, Mandatory Arbitration Act. Except for the legislature, the point I want to make with all this is that there are people who are organized to act in our name. And as arcane as it might be, whatever it is they're talking about, in this day and age, just as we have Facebook Live here at this station, it should be easy enough to equip the meeting rooms of public boards and commissions with a facility, technical capacity to allow people who are not on site to witness their activities. Whatever is required under the law to be done in front of the public. Should be able to do it. The technology's been mature and inexpensive for about 5 years now, which is why it's here at the station. And it's in everybody's hands with current technology, which is why I bring all that up. Because there are lots of public meetings, and they're making decisions on things that impact you and I. Maybe it's a good way to finish up today, gray day, while we're waiting for the sun to break back through the clouds. Jerry Roberts' work zone, when was this put out? Oh, I chopped off I think it was yesterday. Jerry wrote, and it was printed in the Guam Daily Post, choose to be around people who will push you higher. And choose wisely who you associate with. They'll either push you forward or hold you back. You know, maybe it's one of those things that we need to be teaching in the schools. It's a great article if you have a way to go back and see it in your copy of the Guam Daily Post. If you flipped through it, of course, you can catch Jerry Roberts on Ray Gibson's show at about 7:20 tomorrow morning. And he can also be reached at guamtraining.com, and you can find his comments there as well, and the points he makes. It could cost you friends, and it's not about using people, but seek people who know more than you do. Don't let fear hold you back. The problem with playing small. And then it says, I refocused. Somebody out there you don't know yet, that you don't know yet, needs you to be the person you are capable of becoming in your future. Somebody's relying on you to be there. Johnny on the spot. Thank you, Jerry. Choose to be around people who will push you higher. It's 5:59. And it's time to bring to a close today's edition of Tall Tales. I'm Darrell Taggarty. Been with you since 4 o'clock. I'll be back again tomorrow afternoon with more Tall Tales. We'll take a look at what's going on in the news, and we'll be here to take your calls and your comments on Facebook Live. Hey there, Sherry. Thank you for joining us, and I see my blushing bride is there too. Shelley, you too. You're there. Hi. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and join me again tomorrow afternoon. Don't forget, Ray Gibson tomorrow morning at 6, right here on The Point. Have a good evening, everyone.